So, welcome to the cultural awareness session of today. I'm quite keen on bringing a part of my own experience into this session, as well as knowing what the participants would also bring in as their own experiences. So we'll be looking into a very interactive session anyway. So please feel free to use the chat box or raise your hand when you have any contributions. We really like to have it as an interactive experience exchange today. So in terms of my own background, I have a multicultural background myself. I'm German Egyptian, and I've been brought up in Germany and moved to the UK about 18 years ago. And I have also worked internationally for a music publishing company. So literally across the world, marketing is my background, my professional background, before I actually started to become a coach and trainer. And I use my own experience, as well as having studied cross-cultural management and international project management, and also the coaching toolkit as well, which I now use in my training and coaching to support international assignees, particularly when it comes to moving from one country to another, and addressing and starting a new role in the cultural environment, which they are often not familiar with or have only got an introduction to, but not necessarily know what is involved with that. So I'm helping them to not only navigate through the culture shock, but also learning about cultural intelligence and cultural awareness that helps them to make sense of something which normally would take a lot of time to make sense if you wouldn't have had that toolkit or that understanding. So it's helping literally to more or less do a shortcut of some element, if that makes sense. And I like to, I have brought a long and short insight to my cultural awareness toolkit, which could help you then to take some valuable insights away as well. So I help corporate organizations, but also individuals, professionals who need cultural awareness in order for them to be successful in their careers. And that may as well be also students. I've been lecturing, guest lecturing at many various UK universities in their global leaders programs to make international students aware and also prepare them for their cultural agility, which means, in fact, being adaptable to new cultural environments. And also looking into teams and how can they also learn about how important cultural awareness actually is to make the best teamwork possible. Because if you constantly are confronted with prejudice and stereotyping, you against towards others and others about you, that makes it very difficult to actually have fun at work, but also, it could cause stress and has a huge impact on mental health and well-being. So that takes me to what we will cover today. I'd like to explore a little bit about the impact of moving overseas, moving abroad, and also what effect it has on us in terms of having to go through a huge change process, which is actually called the culture shock. It's a cultural adaptation process which everybody goes through, more or less intense. That depends really on your own background and experience and how you actually are willing to embrace change or can deal with it. And then what is cultural awareness? And also I brought some tips along with me. So we know that moving across overseas can lead to stress, anxiety, and even self-sabotage. You could be the best professional, the best student at home. Once you move to a new area, a new cultural environment, which you don't really know how to make sense of it, you're exposed to a huge emotional stress, and that makes you feel like I can't be the best I can actually be. And having to deal with this stress that you actually feel like, oh, I was so good at school or so good at uni or so good at my workplace when I actually, before I moved, you would be really, you find yourself in a very, very unfortunate, uncomfortable situation. And that is something which lots of people who I have worked with find very, very stressful. And that's the reason why it's good to work with a cultural awareness coach like me, for example, or other colleagues, professionals who deal with all these aspects of culture shock and cultural adaptation, to help you to manage your energy better, and also your time and your productivity to be successful in your assignment. So culture shock is actually based on the Kübler-Ross grievance curve. For those who have an interest in where does culture shock actually comes from, it is actually the change curve we are experiencing whenever we go through a particular substantial change. It has those significant 4 stages I would like to focus on, but there are also change curves you may as well come across who have more than the 4 stages. Some of them have 6 or 8. It really depends on how you want to actually describe the various milestones as such. Often it's described with a honeymoon, which is this sort of excitement when you start a new assignment, but then you can also feel like, yes, you know, I'm ready for it, lots of energy, and also using that honeymoon stage to get ready and prepare yourself for that assignment or for your course at uni abroad, and so on and so forth. Everything which is literally involved with honeymoon. It's the excitement stage which really makes you feel very optimistic about your assignment, your move overseas. And the culture shock is literally the deep impact it has when you suddenly notice not everything is honeymoon, it feels like it's a nice undertaking, feels like holiday, or you have a nice feeling about it. It's really, you literally start, reality bites. And Shari will be talking about the mental and emotional impact of culture shock in more depth. I just like to use those different... We have some voices hearing. If somebody can be unmuted, please. Kate, if you could do that for me, please. And culture shock is literally how the stage where you really feel like, oh, am I actually in the right place or not? Some people may as well use that particular stage to actually make decisions whether they want to completely curtail their assignment, maybe want to go home, and that is a very critical path to even, you know, make decisions of whether you even want to be changing your behavior or anything what needs to be changed in that particular moment to make the adjustments needed for you to be successful and master your assignment or your course abroad, or even your career abroad. So it all has to do with change and learning. And yes, some people feel change is something quite disruptive, and it can actually cause a lot of stress and mental, you feel mentally unsettled and stressed and sad, and maybe you miss all your friends and families, the whole familiar surrounding. But it also has something to do of a big impact learning, which you can't, and I'm convinced you can't learn in any classroom, because it's such a 360-degree exposure to the new cultural environment that you can't really replicate anywhere else other than really moving overseas. And I have actually also highlighted later on some benefits of making that cultural adjustment, the cultural adjustment I just described. So what is culture? My question to you really is, I put some symbols on here, and if you feel you want to contribute in the chat box, what would you say culture is, using, let's say, a pair of glasses? What has a pair of glasses to do with culture? Or the fish in the bowl? Or a tree? Or onions? I ask you, I want to trigger your sort of, you know, imagination here. If any of those symbols help you to describe what culture could be, or come up with something else. And please feel to join in the discussion in the chat box, please. Yes, I like that here. Seeing things through a new pair of lenses, exactly. Triggering of senses, yes, absolutely. And the glasses could be the way how you see things in life. I like those comments here, fantastic, yeah. And culture is made up of layers. Love that. Yes, exactly. That would be the annotation, the comment on onions. Exactly. And often it takes, you know, some pain and tears as well to go through the whole experience of getting to know something which is not familiar to you. Any other suggestions? Our roots, love it. Yes, that would be connected to the tree. And the tree is literally a fantastic symbol to actually describe culture, because with the roots, you can actually use your geographical situation, your ancestors, your family tree. You can use all sorts of aspects, history, and the way how traditions have been built over the years. So this is all part in the root. And then think about what the trunk could actually be, and also what the leaves and the branches can be. And think about fruits, like apples or pears. They could be literally our cultural expressions, the fruits of our nation, of our own people. Could be, for example, whatever we see is the tree leaves or branches or even fruits. So thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank you for these great ideas here. And often there is another symbol, another metaphor, which we use in order to describe culture, and that is the cultural iceberg. And when we use the cultural iceberg, I'd like you to use the annotation tool. We can use the slide itself to make notes on this iceberg. And if you are familiar with the annotation tool, I can guide you. There is either the option you can do it via chat box, or you can use it without annotation. So if you go to the top of your screen, next to the green bar, and have a look at view options, and there's a drop-down menu which allows you to get the annotation tool, which is the third from, or the second, better to say, the second annotate, it says from second from the bottom, to click on that, and a little toolbar opens, and that allows you to make some annotations. You can use the text box, as in the second from the left, to write some comments into this picture. And what I'd like you to do is thinking about an iceberg being the tip of the iceberg and something which is hidden in the iceberg, the part which we can't see, and thinking about culture. What do you think could be the tip of the iceberg in terms of culture, and what could be hidden to us? And if you want to make some annotations here, I'd like to invite you to comment on the iceberg here. Has everyone found the tools? I'll make a start here. Oops. So, yeah, I can see some comments here already. Fear, beliefs, yeah, we have here already got some...
I'm not very good at the technical bit of this, and I even can't spell. So.
How are you getting on? I mean, otherwise, if you feel it doesn't work for you to write on the actual slide, please feel free to use the chat box. We just want to keep it simple. I know there's, oops, that was a bit too early. I'm just looking for my...
Yes, I see.
So yeah, we have already got some chat box comments here, like religious beliefs and also food. Exactly, formal culture above water, and deeper would be the informal culture. Like it. That's a very good comment here as well. Yeah. And yes, we could theoretically put them all into this drawing, but you know, to keep it simple. The results I'm going to share with you on the next slide. So I'll anybody else wants to contribute? So here we go. And this is probably just one suggestion. I could have actually sorry, I just need to go here. Okay. So you can see this, the parts which we have above the ice, the water level, the tip of the iceberg, is actually what we perceive with our senses, cultural expressions and ways how we notice culture, often maybe also, you know, associated with when we travel abroad. The sightseeing part of things, we notice that things are look different, people dress differently, they behave differently, we can literally hear different languages, everything which we can perceive with our senses, can hear, smell, taste, touch, is the visible culture, the perceivable culture, the tip of the iceberg. But we know that the hidden parts of the culture is actually so much bigger, as this iceberg actually shows. And we often, it takes time for us and a deep learning to actually explore what are the hidden parts of culture. And in that respect, we can see patterns of speech, family traditions, social status, if there was a class system in a society, for example, personal beliefs, how we've been brought up, how we've been educated, roles in families. I know when I was traveling to Egypt, for example, I didn't know that they had a quite flexible approach to time. I didn't know that. I was brought up in Germany and I was really used to being very punctual. But then, you know, when we had arranged to meet with family and they came 2 hours late, we were like, what? You know, you are late. And this would be one of the biggest, you know, offenses you can do with your family in Egypt, insisting they have to be punctual when they made all the efforts to come and see you and spend time with you. So in that respect, making that faux pas by insisting on your own cultural preference, what you think is right in your cultural context means it can be absolutely offensive or misunderstood in a different cultural context. And that is something which we want to explore a little bit further. I'm trying to just get the annotation out of this. I'm struggling to find my notepad here, my screen.
I've moved the annotations.
Have you got yeah, have you done? Oh, fantastic.
Yes,
that's great. Thank you. Because I can't see my tool here, my toolbox. Anyway, thank you, Kate. So in fact, what I also want to conclude on this metaphor is also that often it's compared with you know, our mental intelligence, to know everything about the sort of, you know, cultural etiquette, so knowing all those behavioral rules, which are really important, no doubt about it. But it's nothing in comparison to the cultural intelligence, which goes so much deeper. If you have a deeper understanding of how culture actually works, then you can also combine that with your cultural etiquette rules much better, and you feel much better prepared of dealing with inconvenient situations or unfamiliar situations. And that's a very important learning point here as well. So that takes us to, well, I brought along an acronym to help us to actually define culture. And you can literally pick and choose what is most appropriate to you, because whatever we actually have here as rules and descriptions is literally how we define culture. And those can be values and beliefs of a group, collective values and beliefs of a group, but also a deeper understanding of how the world works and how we bring up our children to explain them how the world works. And that can be, of course, different from culture to culture. What is also maybe interesting is how we build trust across cultures. Within the culture, we have trust determinants, ways of how we build trust, and that differs from another culture. As I just referred to my example with being punctual in one culture, in Germany, it's absolutely crucial. You can erase trust right from the start if you're not on time. And in Egypt, for example, if you are not on time, it can actually add to the trust building element, because that is the sort of unwritten rule anyway in Egypt. They are quite flexible because they are very much an event culture. You're here, you're now here with us. That's more important than just looking onto your watch. Cultural awareness gives you new perspectives and ideas. It enhances your career. It also helps you to expand international networks. But then you imagine that you are able to connect and build trustful relationships with other people across the globe professionally. Think about the opportunities of collaboration and making networks work for your career as well. And it makes you smarter and more tolerant. And we can literally say, and I love this quote, strangers are only friends you haven't met yet.